How's it going, everybody? Ask me anything about politics. I'm here to answer all of your questions about politics. So if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat. There is no such thing as a dumb question, so you don't got to worry about, this is something I should have learned in high school. And if I ask it, he's going to think I'm a big old dum dum. You don't got to worry about that. There's no judgments here, there's no roasting. There's no ridicule. I do not believe in making people feel stupid or shamed for not knowing things. So I am here to answer all of your questions about politics. Party Source 12 says, ooh, another politics party. We do them here every day, my man. So just jump in. The water's great. So yeah, any questions about politics, you just let me know. I'm here to answer your questions. It can be something simple. It can be something complicated. It can be something about the past. It could be something about the present. I am just here to answer all good faith questions about politics. You don't got to worry about, if I ask this question, he's going to think I'm some sort of, left-wing nut job or right-wing nut job. There's no judgments here. I am just here to answer all good faith questions. If you are further to the left than me or further to the right than me, it does not matter. I will answer your question in good faith. I'm not here to get into fights with people. I'm not here to argue. Party Source 12 says, do green card holders have less rights than citizens? So technically, no, but I did just hear on a podcast today a lawyer talking about this and said that there were some legal gray areas, some novel legal theories that needed to be explored in regards to that one Columbia student who just got, illegally detained as a First Amendment violation. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, they have the exact same amount of rights as citizens. Thank you for your question, Party Source 12. I appreciate that. So anybody else watching, if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat. There's no judgments. There's no debates. I'm not here to fight you guys. You're welcome, Party Source. I am not here to debate. I am not here to fight. I am just here to answer all of your questions about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. Rainy Klacko says, what are the mechanisms of nationalization? Is it something Congress needs to vote on? Yes. Yeah, there's two different sort of like mechanisms for nationalization. You're talking about like industries, like we nationalize healthcare versus private healthcare, I'm assuming. So there's, on the one hand, there would be the government taking over some sort of industry, so let's say that there wasn't a post office, the government saying, all right, well, we're going to start a post office. We already have Medicare and Medicaid, but hey, let's have a mechanism by which people can buy into it instead of just needing to qualify for it. Like if you are above a certain age or below a certain income threshold. There's also the option of making the privatization of that industry illegal or even de-incentivizing it, like giving it a heavy tax burden or heavy regulations and stuff like that. All of that would need to go through Congress and then be signed into law by the sitting president. Thank you for your question. Let's see here. Pickle Bean 4 says, can you explain the purpose of executive orders? Trump seems to think he's king with them. So where executive orders are concerned, it's a little bit of a legal quagmire where there are entire teams of people who get to decide what is and what isn't, what does and doesn't count as an executive order. So the president can't write an executive order that says that, like nobody who's a registered Republican is allowed to vote anymore. Like that would obviously be unconstitutional and not within the purview of what an executive order is. But there are other things that are like more gray areas. Like, Biden signed the executive order that said that he was canceling, like billions and billions of dollars worth of student debt. That went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court found that he did not have the legal authority for that. I don't necessarily agree with that decision, and I know that a lot of legal scholars also do not agree with that decision, but, that is the nature of the beast. What executive orders are supposed to be is where the agencies that operate under the government are concerned, they have like a little bit of wiggle room as far as like how to interpret certain laws. And these executive orders are basically saying like, this is the direction that my administration is going to take with this law. Now, what Trump is doing, by contrast, is kind of like, in Jurassic Park when they say, like, the raptors were testing the cages. Trump is signing executive orders for whatever he wants because he is hoping that he can turn executive orders into edicts the way that, like, a king would have. It is, what he's doing is grossly unconstitutional, illegal, and stripping away the rights and freedoms that we all know and enjoy here in America. It is the kind of five-alarm fire that people should be protesting in the street because it is a naked power grab that is threatening the life, liberty, and happiness of every American citizen. Some of them are more legitimate than others. Some of them are grossly illegal. Some of them are grossly unconstitutional. But that's basically what he is doing. In his mind, the presidency, as his presidency is, for all intents and purposes, like a dictatorship. And he is just doing things to try to see who will stop him from doing the things that he wants to be doing. Nate Ashby says, how can we abolish special interest groups like AIPAC for treasonous intent? You basically just need to elect politicians who are down with having stronger laws regarding foreign interference in our elections, lobbying, money in politics, things like that. The shorthand for that is Democrats, because Republicans don't give a shit about stopping shit like that. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the comments, Christopher Sandoval says, Democrats had 4 years and they ruined our lives. Why can't they just shut up? That is completely inaccurate, Christopher Sandoval. If you are looking at the things that the Trump administration is doing right now, it is hurting a lot of people, whereas the Biden administration was helping a lot of people. Jabroni2898 says, why do Trump supporters have a hard time with reading comprehension? Jabroni, so there's like a sincere answer to this, and there's sort of like a caveat that I want to make, which is that we should not be calling Trump supporters stupid. We should not be calling Republican voters dumb or ugly, and we should not be telling Republican voters that Republican women can't do their makeup correctly and shit like that. There is a fake war going on between all these different sections of the 99%, the working class, the middle class, centrist Democrats versus progressive Democrats, Republican voters versus Democratic voters, etc. And I don't believe in propagating that war. I think we need to be clear-eyed and focused on who the real villains are here, the people that we need to stop, and that is the billionaire class and the Republican Party that is working in league with them. And when I say the Republican Party, I mean the elected officials. And I mean the talking heads, ding-dongs like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and stuff like that. These people that are just making a ton of money off of this divisiveness, and they know they're completely full of shit, and they do not give a shit about spreading misinformation and lying to people's faces. But here's the sincere answer. Like, if you're really wondering, like, are there people on the right who have a hard time with reading comprehension? The answer is that statistically, people that vote right-wing tend to be less educated than people that vote left-wing. And that is not a diss. I'm not saying that they're dumb or anything like that. It just means that if you did not graduate college or high school, you are more likely to be a conservative voter. And again, that doesn't mean that those people are dumb. There are certain qualities that you get when you advance through the ranks of education. Maybe there are some critical thinking skills that you pick up easier when you have a more traditional education, but that does not mean to say that they are dumb. People that don't graduate high school have exactly as much ability to be dumb as smart as people who graduate from, fucking medical school and shit like that. All right. Thank you for your question, Jabroni. I really appreciate that. User a whole bunch of numbers says, as an independent voter, I literally had no debate for who to vote for. Only one had actual policies. It's funny that you should say that, user a whole bunch of numbers, because you're being vague enough that you could be saying the thing that I agree with, which is that the Democrats are the only ones that had actually policies, or you could be spreading misinformation and saying that is Republicans, I'm sorry about clearing my throat so much, guys. I don't know what's going on. Patrick Schultz over on YouTube says, how do you feel about county level political action groups? Do you think they are beneficial? Any pointers on creating one? I think that, small action Democratic groups or progressive groups or, political action groups are where the rubber meets the road in a lot of politics. And I encourage political activism and organizing at every level, regardless of if it is, local, state, or federal. Pointers on creating one, I would check out Indivisible. This is the whole thing that Indivisible does, is it organizes groups like this, but it also teaches people how to create their own groups like this. I love Indivisible. I think they're a great organization, and I encourage everybody to get involved with them. What's up, Tyro? Good to see you again. James Steve says, how do I take someone who voted for Harris seriously? Why wouldn't you? People that voted for Harris are exactly as legitimate in their voting as people who voted for other people. You know, there are Democrats who consider people that voted for Republicans to be extremely uninformed and hazardous. So, you know, I would encourage you to look at your fellow Americans not as somebody who is dumb for voting a certain way, but because they had different values or different information than you. John Corner says the Democratic Party only has 21% approval rating. Your party is falling apart. Okay, John, I don't know what you're talking about, because the values of the Democratic Party are the most popular values in America. And I think that if America has a low approval rating of the Democratic Party, it is the fault of misinformation and propaganda. Greg says, how do I find Hillary Clinton's phone number so I can ask her out? I have no idea. Blue Moon, I mean, she walks through the woods a lot, so I guess just go to the woods and see if you can run into her there. Also, she's married. Blue Moon says, shouldn't it be a crime if simultaneously balling and destroying the world? I guess. I'm not really sure what you're referring to there. LinkedIn bio necklaces and chains says, they deported my friend because he's a repeat violent offender. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if he's a repeat violent offender, it's probably good that they deported him. User a whole bunch of numbers says, how should we approach affecting the people in our lives and those we come across? Talking ideology, you got to meet people where they are. You got to find the things that you can agree on. Even if you are on completely different ends of the political spectrum, maybe you can start with, isn't it weird that Donald Trump has so many billionaires in his cabinet? Don't you think it's weird that the Republican Party is constantly cutting taxes for the billionaire class? Don't they have enough money? Like, everybody else is struggling. Like, what the fuck is going on? If they don't agree with you on those things, isn't it weird that we have two completely different views of what's going on in the world just based on where we get our information? Like, that's weird. Like, there should be an agreed upon news. Like, shouldn't there be? I'm reading a great book right now called The Persuaders about people that do this work professionally. It is teaching me a lot, and it's also inspiring me in this work. And so I would encourage anybody who is, you know, trying to do the work of finding the people who don't vote and getting them to vote, or finding persuadable voters and getting them to vote for better politicians than we currently have in office, then yeah, I would highly encourage checking out that book, The Persuaders. User whole bunch of numbers says, independent voter, Harris's only policies were to continue the past 4 years, which were terrible. I knew it, user whole bunch of numbers. I knew you were full of it. Good Lord. Tip says, how much does Israel give to our politicians? Probably millions and millions of dollars. You know, they are, it is really easy, thank you to Republican politicians, for people with a lot of money to influence our politicians and our politics and our elections. They have made it infinitely easier to do bribery and corruption, and even like the kind of mild lobbying that happens is still like way too influenced by money in politics. If that is something that you do not care for, I would suggest you vote for Democrats, because they are the only party that is serious about taking money out of politics. User a whole bunch of numbers says, I mean, no rebuttal. I wish there was two better candidates, but those were our options. I don't know what you're talking about, user a whole bunch of numbers. For my perspective, Harris is the only one that had a legitimate platform. Trump did not. Harris has a better record. Democrats in general have a better record. Donald Trump had a terrible record. He did a fucking coup on this country. All the things that people were suffering from during the Biden administration were caused by the Trump administration. So yeah, you know, if you want to come at me with that nonsense, with that obvious misinformation and propaganda, if you're here in good faith, I will engage with you. But if you're just here to call me a dumb cuck, then I'm going to boot you out of here. Tyler WXBB says the Democrats want to take the money out of politics, need to frame that. As, I mean, it's accurate, you know, just look at the bills that they're behind. Look at the shit they tried to pass during the Biden administration, but were blocked by Republicans. Look at the things that Republicans are doing to inject more money into politics. Look at the Supreme Court case that Ted Cruz won, and look at the Supreme Court case where Alito and Thomas basically made it fine for somebody to bribe a political official if they give you the money after you do the thing for them. You know, if you give it to before, that's a bribe, but if you give it to them after, that's just a tip. They're just saying thank you. And look at the agencies that Trump is shutting down. You know, he's making it easier to hide your money in shell companies. He's making it easier for foreign actors to bribe American politicians and vice versa. So yeah, you can miss me with that shit, man. Harry Singapali says, Trump supporters say that the economy was good in 2016, but did he do anything to make it good? He did not. He was coasting on the economy that Barack Obama had built. And by the time Trump's policies were able to actually come into effect, it was 2020, and the economy crashed, crime went up, violence went up, unemployment went up, inflation started going up. All of this stuff sort of like had a trailing effect through the Biden administration, and it is thanks to the Biden administration that we were able to recover. And by the time the Biden administration was over, unemployment was down, inflation was down, the stock market was hitting record highs. So yeah, Democrats are always better on the economy than Republicans, and it is only because of misinformation and propaganda that people think otherwise. Medic Court says, will the Bernie policy agenda ever become mainstream in the Democratic Party? I would argue that it already is mainstream, and that there just aren't enough people voting. You know, there's a lot of people who are convinced that not voting is better than voting. There are a lot of people who don't get engaged in the primaries, and that is where, you know, a more left-leaning progressive Democrat would win over a more right-leaning centrist Democrat. You know, you got great people like Maya Wiley and Katie Porter who are losing their primaries because the progressives aren't voting, or the progressives aren't making a good enough case to swing, you know, more centrist Democratic voters from voting for the more centrist candidates. Harry Singapali says, I'm a Democrat, but we need crazy party reform. We aren't going to win another election if we don't change. I completely disagree with that take, Harry. The Democratic Party is a multicultural and multi-political level. It is a big tent that has centrists like Chuck Schumer and progressives like AOC. That is the way that America looks, and the Democratic Party should be the party that reflects what America is, both from the political spectrum and from the, you know, ethnic spectrum and age spectrum, etc., and the sex spectrum and the LGBTQ spectrum, exactly. So yeah, like as far as like reforming the party goes, I just think we need to get more people voting. You know, because it doesn't really matter what the messaging of the Democratic Party is. It doesn't really matter what the Democratic Party does. The mainstream media, the right-wing media, and social media is able to twist and lie about it to make it seem like Democrats are doing a bad job or saying a bad thing. There is nothing that any Democrat has ever done in the past, 40 years that the mainstream media or social media has not been able to spin into not what they meant or a complete and utter fucking lie. And I have 1,000 examples of this if you want me to get into it. Lever 2K says, where do you think the Harris administration went wrong? Is there anything you think they should have done differently? Yeah, you know, I'm sure they did make mistakes, but they had 100 days to mount a presidential campaign, which, you know, people usually plan their presidential campaigns over years instead. I think the main sin of that campaign was just the fact that Biden decided to run for a second term. And that completely, you know, it kneecapped the Harris administration. What she was doing was working. We can see that because she did better in swing states than in deep blue states. And that's because she was spending a lot of time in swing states. That's because that's where all the activists were going, you know. But she didn't have enough time. She didn't have enough runway. Are there things that she could have done better? Yeah, probably. But again, I don't think that the sins of the Harris campaign during the 107 days that she had are even close to the sins of the Trump administration and the Trump campaign. And yet people still voted for Trump and did not vote for Harris. And why is that? Incumbency bias, misinformation, propaganda. User a whole bunch of numbers says all the swing states went red though. Yes, but the shift was less in swing states than in blue states. Blue Moon says, why don't we address the election? What do you mean by that? Sweet Pea says, I like Dave Pfeiffer's question. I didn't see Dave Pfeiffer's question. Let's see if I can find it. I've read that Schumer voted yes because the government shutdown would have given Trump free reign. True. Yeah, you know, I can't tell you exactly what Chuck Schumer's thinking was. I can only tell you that it is not the way that the media is describing it, as bending the knee or caving to the Trump administration. If you talk to people who were, you know, abreast of things and knew the consequences of both what allowing that vote to happen and not allowing that vote to happen were, it was complicated. And it was difficult. There's a podcast called Pod Save America where they went into the pros and cons of what Chuck Schumer did for 30 whole fucking minutes. This was not an easy decision that any of these politicians had to make. They were kind of damned if they did and damned if they didn't. Now, do I agree with what Chuck Schumer did? No. I think it could have been handled better. I kind of come down on the side of the shutdown probably would have been more beneficial for just kind of like activating the country. But, you know, the fact of the matter is Republicans have full control of the government right now. All of the pain and suffering that is going on right now is the fault of the Republican Party, Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And the danger that we're all living in right now is because of them. That danger is going to go up and down, you know, depending on, you know, Democrats filibustering things, or the Justice Department, the judges, you know, ruling against what Doge and Trump are doing. But the fact of the matter is, like, we're in a bad place right now, and a lot of people are going to get hurt, and a lot of people are going to suffer, and people are going to die. And in order to undo all of this shit, people are going to have to do a lot of work. People like you and me. Like, we can't just sit around and wait for the Democratic Party to save us. They don't have the resources to save us. They don't have the political power to save us. It has nothing to do with them being feckless or ineffective. It has everything to do with the fact that not enough people voted for them, and they don't have as much money, power, and influence as the Republican Party, because they are working with adversarial nations like Russia, and all of the billionaires in the world save like 5, you know? So, sorry, I don't remember what original question I was answering there. Jinping says, do you think Trump supporters are willfully ignorant about his Epstein friendship? I just don't think that, they care. You know, I don't think that they like him. They don't care. They're like, this is a guy who has been divorced 3 times. He's cheated on everybody he's ever been in a relationship with. He's currently cheating on his current wife, who hates him. They both hate each other. You know, his kids are weird. We don't like that, but we like him and we like what he's doing, and so they don't care. You know, they don't care about hypocrisy. They don't care about, you know, what do you call it? Sally says, we the people elected Trump. You know, that's not a question, Sally, and I don't care for just people politicking here in my live chat when what I'm trying to do is just talk to people. Let's see here. Harry Singapali says, do you think the polarization on woke issues is hurting the Democratic Party's success? I do, but I don't think that it has anything to do with woke specifically. I think that it has to do with anything that the Democratic Party does. Like, the Democratic platform is the popular platform in this country. People will vote for things that are in the Democratic platform as ballot referendums, but for some reason they won't vote for Democratic politicians. And why is that? Democratic Party is suffering from a decades-long smear campaign. That is smears that come from right-wing media, centrist media. You know, they get, in my opinion, very fair criticisms from progressive media, but there is no place that the Democratic Party goes where they just get a full fucking tongue bath the way that Trump and Republicans get from fucking Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and Fox News and Breitbart and shit like that. The Electoral College is stacked against them. Gerrymandering is stacked against them. The Senate map is stacked against them. They are playing a game that is rigged against them. And that is the reason why the brand has become completely toxic. You know, they have made some very normal and understandable mistakes. They have done things that we disagree with. You know, like, that's not my policy. And people just don't recognize that they are better because they have been sold bullshit from social media and mainstream media. John D says, where do you get your real news? You have to get it from multiple sources. That is the only way that you can counter the bias of different agencies. You can use an aggregator like Ground News or the Reddit news feed, or you can just do it, you know, DIY, where you get a little bit of news from centrist and legacy and progressive and foreign, and that way you're kind of like getting different angles on all the different stories. Patrick Schultz says, can you shout out that organization and that book one more time? I have really bad ADHD. Sure, yeah, the organization I talked about earlier in the live stream was Indivisible. Highly recommend. They're totally fucking awesome. And the book I recommended was The Persuaders. It is written by a guy whose last name I have a really hard time pronouncing. His name is Anand Giridharadas or something like that. Tony Robbie says, independent party for the win. Left and right have gone too far both ways. We need a middle ground. Completely disagree with that, Tony Robbie. The Democratic Party is America. It is people that are progressive and people that are centrist. The Republican Party is all fucking crazy, hardcore fascist extremists. I'm not talking about the voters. I'm talking about the elected officials. That is the fucking issue. So you can yell and scream about whatever some fucking quote unquote blue-haired liberal lady on Twitter said. I don't really give a shit, because the elected party of the Democratic Party are a bunch of responsible, normal fucking people who represent a diversity of opinion in this country. Whereas the Republican Party, their elected officials are fucking right-wing psychopaths who are going full fucking fascist, schnazi shit. And it is happening every day in the fucking news. Like, why are we not flipping out about the fact that he fired the heads of all the different branches of the military and is going to replace them with fucking loyalists? Why do we not give a shit that Elon Musk and his fucking Doge boys, it is a group that was not approved by Congress, what they are doing is illegal. They are taking over independent government buildings, and nonprofit organizations. They are literally reaching into people's bank accounts and siphoning money out of it. People that they wrongly accused of being dead and getting Social Security, they just raided their fucking bank accounts. They are disappearing citizens right now. People who there are no fucking criminal charges against them, and they're just getting fucking renditioned and sent to different, places in this country, or even different countries, or even countries they've never fucking been to before. And I'm not talking about people who are here illegally, although some of those people had no fucking criminal record, and they're just getting fucking deported for no fucking reason. So yeah, guys, like, why are we fucking arguing about this shit when there's literal Schnazi shit happening out our fucking window? Like, we need to be organizing, guys. We need to be losing our fucking minds. Richard Woodruff says, poor Libby's losing your mind. I love it. You know what I love is blocking people. So you're out of here, buddy. Let's see here. Tyro Pillar says, feel like the We Need Another Party have decision paralysis. Yeah, I don't think that America does great with two options. They get it wrong more than half the time. So yeah, I don't know what having more parties is going to solve. Yeah, baby. Good to see you again over on Twitch. Have you considered that Democrats may become controlled opposition going forward based on their messaging and actions after the election? I don't, because the Democratic Party is a big tent, and I don't view what the Democratic Party is doing, even on the centrist side, as being in bad faith. Like, I don't think that Chuck Schumer and Brian Schatz and everybody else, a rainbow coalition of people that, voted for cloture, basically allowing the spending bill to go forward. I don't think that they were operating as controlled opposition just so that they can build funds and stuff like that. I see zero evidence of that. All right, scrolling down to the bottom, says Annette Kararu says, how can Americans... sorry, I just lost your comment. Yeah, sorry, I lost your comment. Tyler says the modern Democratic Party is stock full of corporate nationalists. That's not a question, Tyler, and it's also inaccurate. All of this, this misguided Democrat bashing is so fucking dumb, guys. When the Republican Party is literally doing Schnazi shit, they are the greatest threat to our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and y'all are on here complaining about Democratic messaging strategies and stuff like that. Like, really, guys? Like, are you reading the news, man? Alrighty, let's see here. That's not about you, yeah, baby. You're great. Trump Prophet. Oh, this person's going to be really good faith. The idea that the Republic would last forever is absurd. Okay. Yeah, that is complete nonsense, my man. You're out of here. Okay, scrolling down to the bottom. Scott Kluwer said, did the Tech Bros show upper? I don't know what that means, Scott. Lever2K says, what do you think border policy will look like if Dems win in 28? Do you think they will change policy? I don't know. The Democrats have been willing to go more aggressive on immigration because that is what the American people have asked them to do, and they still voted for the Republican Party. So I have no fucking idea, Let's see here. Luke says the Democrats are corporate nationalists. The Republican oligarchs are worse. Two parties are the same. Completely inaccurate, Luke. That is not true at all. Republican oligarchs are worse, but the parties are not the same. Not even by a long shot. The outcomes are different. The platform is different. The politicians are different. And generalizing, the Democratic Party is light years better than the Republican Party. User whole bunch of numbers says, you are in denial. Both sides have went far too far. No, it's not. Sorry. Guys, I gotta tell you, you're really trying my patience here. My patience for the trolls is at an all-time low today. I just heard way too much bad news, I am not here to just bat away people who are arguing in bad faith. J City says, what should the Dems be doing to prevent Trump from doing what he's doing? That's a really good question, J City, because they have almost no political power right now. And a lot of them are doing the work. A lot of them are doing what they can to either stop or slow down or call attention to what Trump and Doge and Elon Musk are doing. But the fact of the matter is that Republicans have the ability to do whatever they want right now. And it is not because Democrats are feckless or ineffective. It is because not enough people voted for Democrats and too many people voted for Republicans. So what should they do? You know, I do like what Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing with this like in-person tour thing. Tim Walz also is showing up and holding town halls where Republican politicians are completely abandoning people. I think that activating people to put more political pressure on Republicans in office is going to be a great move. But really, it's activating, organizing, protesting, striking, boycotting, and empowering people to do that. Because the Democratic Party, again, they don't have the resources or the political power to save us. We have to do it. We are the ones who have to do it. Alrighty, scrolling down to the bottom, it says, Dems left the working class behind. Republicans went further right to a cult. The Democratic Party did not leave the working class behind, Luke. I know that's what Bernie Sanders says, but I think he was wrong about that. Did they do, everything that the working class wanted? No. But that is what democratic politics is like. Sometimes progress is slow. But the way that you solve that is you vote for more Democrats as opposed to fewer. We did not do the world any favors. We did not accelerate the working class priorities of the Democratic Party by not voting for them in 2024. I can give you a laundry list of things that happened during the Biden administration that were pro-worker, more pro-worker and pro-union than any president since FDR, and people still have this idea of them having, betrayed the working class. Let's see here. It's the Rocketeer. People still accusing Soros of doing things in secret while Musk is doing everything they're accusing him of in public. Used to be funny, but the imbecility is exhausting now. Completely agree with you on that. It's the Rocketeer. Yeah, baby. Based on the presidential powers provided by the Supreme Court and the actions of Trump, do you think Trump might attempt to prevent a 2028 presidential election? Absolutely 100%. Yeah, baby. I don't know the mechanism by which he is going to do it, but Trump wants to die in office. He wants to be president for life. He wants to hand the presidency down to his fucking idiot, shitty kids. And the fact that anybody is pretending otherwise is completely insane to me. Now, whether he tries to do that through some sort of like dubious legal mechanism, like declaring martial law or petitioning the Supreme Court or trying to pass some legislation or trying to hold a constitutional convention, like that is anybody's guess. But that is what he's going to try to do, without question. Let's see here. Blue Moon says, I agree with part of that statement. Which part, Blue Moon? Let's see here. P. Serg 40 says, I'm amazed how this government is allowing the acts of Trump via executive order. I am not amazed, P. Serg 40, because it's Republicans. And Republicans do not give a shit. They will do whatever Daddy Trump tells them to do. They will kiss his ass and bend the knee and etc. Whatever metaphor you want for that shit in there. They're spineless. They have no moral background, backbone. They are either terrified of what Trump will do to them or Musk will do to them, or their extremely violent and incensed base will do to them, or they like what is going on, and they are fucking morally bankrupt, and they do not give a shit about all the people that are getting harmed by the Trump administration. Right, DJ, what is the impact of historical materialism and dialectal materialism on society? That is an excellent question. Marianne Gremillion says, we are now controlled by oligarchs and headed towards authoritarian government. Completely agree with that, Marianne. Are you doing the work to stop it? Let's see here. Carmine says, what are your thoughts on Nayib Bukele? You'll have to be more specific. That name does not jump off the page to me, unfortunately, Carmine. Good to see you. Thank you for being a patron. Ginger Mint says, do you think avoiding a government shutdown was a good idea? I don't, but I do think that it was a really hard decision. I think that it was I'm 55% we should have let the government shut down and 45% not. So I do not agree with anybody who thinks that Schumer and those other Democrats caved by allowing that vote to happen. I think it was a really difficult decision. Marianne Gremillion says, I'm too old Too much, I worry for my grandchildren. I can understand that, Marianne. We can all only do what we can do. But I hope you're talking to your grandchildren about that, because they're young and they have gas in the tank. They are able to do the kind of activism that we need young people to be doing right now. Let's see here. Scott Clower says, thoughts on John Roberts Trump smackdown. I'm not... Is this like a new thing that John Roberts did? Because as far as I know, John Roberts has been nothing but a velvet glove for the Trump administration. Rocketeer says the left doesn't have any big personalities that glaze them up like ours do. The ones we do have bash on the party, rightly so, but that sends the wrong message to everyone. I completely agree with that. It's the Rocketeer. And I've made this point before. I kind of stole it from a different political commentator named Destiny, who said that there is no place that the Democratic Party goes for their tongue baths the way that the Republican Party can get a tongue bath from Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk or Breitbart or Dan Bongino or any of those ding-dongs. D says, thoughts on jelking? I don't know what that is. Marion Gramillion says, yes, hoping younger generations save democracy. Yeah, let's help them, Marianne. Let us try to be part of the group that is convincing them and activating them. Tally Vantagamer says, for enacting a wartime act in a time of peace, can articles of impeachment be brought? That is a really good question. So here's the thing about impeachment, is it is whatever the party that is controlling Congress wants it to be. It's high crimes and misdemeanors, but there is a lot of debate about what that means. The Republican Party thought that Bill Clinton getting a blowjob from an intern counted as high crimes and misdemeanors, but that Donald Trump, blackmailing a sovereign nation into creating fake dirt against his political opponents was not a high crimes and misdemeanors. So yeah, it's never going to happen when Republicans are in charge unless there's a Democratic president who is not breaking the law. So yeah, I would encourage you to not only vote for Democrats, but vote for people, but encourage people and convince people to vote, other people to vote for Democrats. Otherwise, nothing is ever going to change. These Republicans are just going to let Trump fucking shit all over us, Let's see here. Ooh, okay, it's the Rocketeer. Yeah, John Roberts came out this morning speaking out against his treatment of judges. So here's the thing. It's good that John Roberts did that, but I am done with these fucking milquetoast right-wing objections to what Trump is doing. Because these guys know what the fuck is going on. John Roberts knows what a threat Donald Trump is to democracy and the Supreme Court, all these fucking institutions that he supposedly cares so much about. And so he's going out there and making a statement about how, I didn't read the statement, to be frank, I'm just learning about it right now, but I'm guessing it was just some soft editorial in the Wall Street Journal being like, judges are important and Trump shouldn't be doing this, instead of raising a fucking 5-alarm fire for what is going on, I'm fucking done with John Roberts. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm in a real fucking mood today. Yeah, baby says, with the rising cost of living in Democrat-controlled states, do you foresee a shift in voting in traditionally red states becoming purple or possibly blue, and blue states going red due to the cost of living? That's a really good question. Yeah, baby. And here's the thing. I do not believe that redistributing certain voters to different states is going to have that big of a demographic shift over, voting patterns in this country. It will definitely have a shift. And, not to mince words about it, but elections are won and lost by a 1% margin, especially these days. But I think that we're not going to see that kind of movement be affecting our democracy, because everybody, regardless of if they're left, right, or center, regardless if they're living in a blue, red, or purple state, they are all being affected by a fucking barrage, a fire hose of misinformation and propaganda. And here's the thing about this propaganda, is that it's really insidious, and it is bespoke. Each one is made to fit the person that will fall for it. Are you the kind of person that's going to fall for a Ben Shapiro or a Charlie Kirk? Great. The algorithm will give you more of that. Are you the kind of person who's going to think that, both parties are the same? Great. We will send you narratives about that. Are you the kind of person that thinks that Republicans are bad, are worse than Democrats, but that, if you don't vote, you're sending a message that we need to change the two-party system? Great. I'll send you that narrative instead. Social media is all controlled by the billionaire class. And even if it wasn't, it is really easy to manipulate it if you have a lot of money and power, which Republicans and the billionaire class does. And so all I am seeing on social media, regardless of, the fact that I am a hardcore progressive is the Democrats are feckless, they're ineffective, they're too far to the left, they're too far to the right, they're doing too much, they're doing too little, don't vote, it's not worth it, throw your hands up in the air because, we just don't care that everything is going to shit, et cetera, et cetera. If that does not change, if we do not see the kind of, groundswell activation of people like really speaking out about these narratives and talking to people in real life, I just see our slow decline into authoritarianism just continuing and accelerating. And I don't think that any demographic shifts in, like population densities and stuff like that is going to make as big of a difference as this just like fire hose of misinformation that is drenching every American and unconsciously affecting the way that they think about politics and the political parties and what's going on. Yeah, so if anybody's here for the first time, I'm not usually this cranky. I'm having a real, I don't know, I just read the wrong pieces of news today and then I got the wrong trolls in my fucking thing here. All right, let's see here. Flyfish says microphone settings sound different today. Better or worse? Do I need to turn it up? Do I need to turn it down? What's going on? Let's see here. Voting bells. Voting is the most performative political action someone can take. That is completely inaccurate, Bells. Voting is the reason why change happens in this country. There are people alive today because of the Affordable Care Act, which is only possible because people voted for Democrats and Barack Obama. And similarly, there are women who are dead today because people voted for Republicans and Donald Trump, and they were able to enact abortion bans that killed women who did not have to die. Let's see here. Lori Calfin says, ignore the mayor's negative comments. You're very intelligent and love listening to you. Thank you, Lori. I really appreciate that. Who's the mayor, though? Florida Boy says, the best part of Trump's victory is watching guys like you go on live just to whine and complain. No, the best part is blocking people like yourself. Alrighty, scrolling down to the bottom. Sounds like it's a different input. It's not bad. Oh, I know what happened. Yeah, I got to change my settings here. Sometimes the primary microphone gets, gets switched, unfortunately. Burp, 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 burp. So yeah, sorry everybody. Sorry for that. Here we go. All right, so tell me if this gets better, everybody. Tell me if the audio is now better, because I just switched it on TikTok. All right, Carmine says, don't let them win, Jarrett. They want us to stay away from the news. I mean, I'm going to continue doing the work, Like, I'm on here every fucking day except for weekends, doing the fucking work of trying to convince people and trying to activate people. But I'm definitely going to let crankiness win today, Thank you for calling that out, everybody. I appreciate that. Yeah, sometimes I got to remember to double check that setting every time I do these. FWG Slump says, do you think we will actually get to the point of fascism and authoritarianism, or will revolt stop it? That's an open question, FWG. Here's the thing. We can stop it. If people just sit around and wait for somebody else to stop it, then it's not going to get stopped. But if we all do the work of stopping it, of activating other people, of talking to people, of correcting people who say dumb things like voting doesn't do anything, if we put political pressure on Republicans in government who are already elected, if we support good progressive candidates, if we all get out there and vote, we find the 85 million people who did not vote in the last election and convince them to vote, then yeah, we can 100% stop this. But if we don't do that work and we don't convince everybody to do that work, then we're kind of effed in the A. Let's see here. I can't read that comment, Patrick, for legal reasons. Blue Moon says men need to get louder about women and children. I don't know what you mean by that, Blue Moon. Let's see here. Interesting. Do you think the internet misinformation has had any effect on what Democrats focus on policy-wise? I do. Yeah, baby. I think that the misinformation and disinformation and propaganda has affected polling, and polling is a large part of what Democrats base their messaging on. And so, you had everybody in this country, including in blue states, screaming their fucking heads off about immigration and about the open border, which was a lie, which was fake. The fact of the matter is immigration is a net positive on this country, but for some reason everybody was still losing their fucking minds about it, and so Democrats became more aggressively centrist or right-wing about immigration. And they worked on that bill with the Republican Party that was largely things that the Republicans wanted and just like a couple of carve-outs for Democrats. And, you can argue about whether or not that was a deciding factor in convincing somebody on the far left to not vote. But the fact of the matter is that 100% changed the information that was coming out of the Democratic Party and how they were reacting to things. But yeah, that's also just my opinion. I don't really have any data on that at the moment. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. I need to stop. Here's the thing, Patrick. When people are just saying nice things to me on other platforms that they can't see, I need to stop reading those comments because I could just make that up. I don't want people to think that I'm making up comments complimenting myself. Like I'm going over here and I'm like, over on Twitch, you're the handsomest man I've ever seen. Oh my God, thank you so much. Over on YouTube, Emily Radzikowski says you're so sexy. Oh my goodness, Emily, I had no idea you were a fan. Overstreet Family Crew says, since Trump wasn't able to get Putin to do a ceasefire today, what do you think is next? So what we are seeing is a fake dance between people like Netanyahu and Putin and Trump, where Trump is making it seem like he is doing the work of building peace or stopping fighting or whatever, while behind the table saying to them, just do whatever the fuck you want, and I will blame it on the weaker party. So where Putin is involved, Putin is going to do whatever the fuck he wants. He's going to, create peace deals that are just giveaways that are just exactly what he wants and have nothing for Ukraine. He's going to, not abide by ceasefires. He's going to break contracts and shit like that. And then Trump is going to turn around and say that it's fucking what's the dude Volodymyr Zelensky's fault. And then he's going to yell at Zelensky and say, you should have done more to create peace. Like, look at what you made Russia do, invading you and, betraying the ceasefire and shit like that. And he's doing the same shit with Netanyahu, where he was talking about, we need peace between Palestine and Israel. And then he said to Netanyahu, like, yeah, do whatever the fuck you want, man. Ethnically cleanse Palestine. I don't give a shit. Just let me put a fucking Trump hotel and casino on the West Bank because, as I've said a million times before, that is great beachfront property that I would love to exploit financially. And so, yeah, Netanyahu has already started, attacking the people of Palestine again with exactly zero regard for, protecting civilian life and shit like that. So, yeah, like all of this is fake. Like all of the things that you were seeing him doing as far as like, we're working on this peace deal and we're working on this minerals thing with Ukraine. Like it's all fucking bullshit. It is a slow dance to get to the point where Trump can basically tell Russia, like, do whatever you want. And in fact, we'll give you money and we'll give you weapons, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see here. Lori Calvin says, Trump isn't running this country. It's Musk and Project 2025, people. Musk is definitely doing a lot of work for the country, even though what he's doing is illegal. But Trump definitely is doing things, like he gave a speech for the Department of Justice, basically saying to his loyalists over there, like, start investigating my enemies, please. So yeah, to say that he is just like sitting at home watching Fox News and not doing anything is a little inaccurate, I would say, Lori. Big Mac says, why hasn't America caught on that the Mueller report proved Israeli collusion, not Russian? I read the Mueller report, Big Mac, and it did not say that. Let's see here. Dan Blackroyd. Who's Bells? I do host lives, Dan, but this says ask me anything, LOL. What did you say, Bells, that everybody's mad at you about? Yeah, where's this original comment that Bells everybody's yelling at you for? Let's see here. Yeah, where is she? Yeah, I don't know what she said that everybody's mad at her about. Lever2K says, thoughts on the future of the Republican Party? I mean, it just depends on if people are able to stop them. Because if the people do not stop the Republican Party, they are going to become what the Stasi Party became in Germany during World War II. And it is going to become like what Putin's party is in Russia right now. If we are able to stop them, they're going to continue doing what they're doing now. And they're going to put a lot of money into elections. They're going to flood the zone with misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. They're going to sling mud. They're going to lie. They're going to try to cheat to win elections. And if we're living in a hypothetical world where people remain activated and they don't fall for it and the Republican Party just loses more and more political power, they are literally never going to change. They're just going to keep on doing those tactics until they no longer exist. But the fact of the matter is, unless we, keep putting pressure on this wound, it is just going to it's just going to start bleeding again. And so, they're going to do their shenanigans and bullshit. People are going to fall for it. And then Republicans are going to take power again. And then we're going to have to fight them again. And then Democrats are going to take power again if people are activated. It's like this massive tug of war where there are millions of people on both sides just pulling and pulling and pulling. And everybody's complaining about progress is not happening fast enough. And I'm like, well, look, there's a fucking million people pulling on their side. That's the reason why. And additionally, the billionaires on the other fucking side of that rope are paying people on our side of the rope to convince people to quit. And they're basically saying like, this is bullshit. They're paying people on our side of the rope to pull in the opposite direction and say, no, I'm actually pulling in the right direction. So, yeah, I'm definitely cranky today, guys. Yeah, baby says, what are your thoughts about the future of the relationship between U.S. and Canada and Mexico? Others have theorized, and I think this is probably accurate, that what Trump is doing is trying to invade and take over all of the Americas. And so part of what he's doing with his tariffs is trying to weaken the economies of both Mexico and Canada to the point where it'll be easier for him to invade. He does not care about ruining those relationships because the more tension that exists between Canada and America and Canada and Mexico, the more justification he feels he has, the more of a mandate he has to rally troops to actually begin invading. It's also the reason why he keeps on threatening taking over Greenland and shit like that. Where creating enemies is also beneficial for Trump and his ilk is that it creates more boogeymen that he has to protect us all from. And so the more that he can kick sand into the face of our neighbors and allies, forcing them to retaliate, and then he can say, look at what they're doing. They're being so mean to us. Now I have to retaliate on them. It's fucking, classic gaslighting, toxic shit behavior. Look what you made me do. And also, you punch someone in the face, they punch you back, and you have forgotten your original punch. So you go, you just punched me in the face, now you deserve a punch back, as opposed to recognizing that now you're even, I'm already seeing that bullshit here on my live streams where people are saying, like, why is it okay for Europe to tariff us? Are we not allowed to tariff them back? And I'm like, no, their tariffs are retaliatory. They're the ones who are retaliating against us, Cameron Hodge, 35, says, what do you think about Chuck voting for the spending bill? The people that have been on here for a while, I don't want to bore you guys by repeating shit, but so I'll just give you the quick version, Cameron. I think it was a tough decision, and I don't think that it was him caving. I think he was doing what he thought was right, because both options were terrible. I think that, Galaxy Brain, we probably could have handled it better. But, I don't think that he was caving. I think that he was trying to pick between the best of two really shitty options. Quinton says, thoughts on people graffitiing Tesla dealerships? I feel bad for the workers who have to clean it up. I don't condone any kind of violence. And I don't condone the kind of property damage that makes it easy for the right wing to demonize people on the left. Like, as far as I know, I have no fucking idea who these people are who are graffitiing Teslas and, setting fire to, Tesla dealerships and charging stations and stuff like that. But people are assuming that it's people on the left because, he is working with Donald Trump, who is a right-wing politician. But we don't know that. Nobody has taken credit for these acts. Nobody has been arrested for these acts. And so this could just as easily be people that voted for Donald Trump and then they got fired from the government for no fucking reason, and now they're pissed about it. And so they're taking it out on Doge that way. I think that I think people need to do everything that they can to put pressure on this administration, and we the people have only certain kinds of power: protesting, boycotting, striking, etc. I do not condone people doing, violence or destruction or anything like that. But when you piss off people, sometimes stuff like that happens. Let's see here. IXAUA, Sex Canada says, been hitting us with 200% tariffs. How is that our fault? No, that is not accurate, IX. We had a trade agreement with Canada. It was actually negotiated by Trump. Trump just threw that whole thing in the garbage because he wanted to start a trade war with our allies. User a whole bunch of numbers says, thank you very much. I really like this. Everything you're saying to facts people need to understand. I appreciate that you user a whole bunch of numbers. Okay. Flinny Flynn says, rioting, but the Democrats' money might have dried up, so no paid protest. I don't know what you're trying to insinuate there, Flinny Flynn. Evan says, we don't have the right to take Canada. Completely agree with that. Estella says 200% tariffs after a quota that was historically never reached. Thank you for that fact check, Estella. I appreciate that. FWG Slump says, what does most of the Dem reps and senators basically not doing anything to help us mean? I don't think that is accurate, FWG Slump. First of all, there are plenty of Democrats who are doing the work to try to stand up to the Trump administration. Lots of Democrats. I keep on hearing people say Democrats aren't doing anything. And I'm like, well, what about Bernie Sanders and AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Tim Walz and Brian Schatz and Chris Murphy and Al Green and J.B. Pritzker and Michelle Wu and Maxwell Frost and Melody Stansberts, etc. Just because you don't see the work doesn't mean that it's not happening. That's number one. Number two is the Democratic Party is a big tent. And so it is difficult to organize and get everybody to sort of like follow through on one specific plan because you got people like AOC who want to do this and you got people like Chuck Schumer who want to do that. I think that this is a strength of the Democratic Party, that it represents the diversity of America, both in political ideology, sexual orientation, and race and age and stuff like that. But it does make it harder for us to do the work and for us to sort of like, have a unified response to things. But yeah, the Democrats are doing the work. They are doing the work. It might not be enough, because they have zero political power right now. It might not be what you want them to be doing, but they are doing things. Kelly McJelly says, thoughts on Kamala, Obama, and the Bushes all being quiet or missing right now. I have no idea what the deal is there. I've heard people theorize that it has to do with sort of like, there's much more value to a groundswell for, small organizations championing the stuff as opposed to, more establishment politicians sort of like reaching down from on high, because then it becomes a fight against like the establishment versus, the Donald Trump change administration. So yeah, I worry about what the narrative will be if more establishment politicians come out and try to do more work. But I also think that there could be value to that sort of thing. Like, here's the thing, guys, and I'm trying to communicate this as consistently and eloquently and repetitively as I possibly can, is that this is hard and the deck is stacked against us severely. And so we can't just, throw stones at the Democrats for not being perfect about this shit, because it's really hard. And there might not be an answer that works. We're in triage right now where, you got a patient who's got like 1,000 bullet holes in them, and we're doing what we can. But, the likelihood is we're going to lose a couple of limbs, or we're going to need a fucking liver transplant or some shit like that. So, yeah, I don't truck with any of these people that are like, what's up with the pink outfits during the State of the Union and those stupid little paddles? And I'm like, what did you want them to do? What Al Green did? A lot of people didn't like what Al Green did. Do you think they all should have boycotted? Well, if they all boycotted, then the seats would have been empty, the Republicans would have sat in them, and then they would have had this great image of the entire hall applauding for Donald Trump. Wow, look, he's got the entire government unified behind him. There's no good answers, particularly because the media and social media has an incredible ability to take whatever Democrats doing and turning it into a bad thing. Al Gore, in the 2000 election, rightfully said to everybody that he deserves some credit for the creation of the internet because he was the one who secured funding for the research that created it. And the media turned that into Al Gore said he invented the internet, and everybody fucking made fun of him, and his fucking popularity tanked, and everybody hated him. George W. Bush was a fucking idiot, and Al Gore was looking at him during a debate like he was an idiot, and everybody was like, I don't think that we should have a president who looks at idiots like they're idiots. Hey guys, Acklear says, are you a Republican? No, I am not. Acklear says they should keep doing the work and let the real world leave the real world things to Republicans. A.K. Lear says, why are you acting like you were in a crisis? We are in a crisis. Like, we are currently in a constitutional crisis. We are slipping every day faster into authoritarianism and dictatorship. People are getting fucking disappeared. There is no oversight on this administration. He has fired the heads of all the branches of the military and is going to replace them with people who will do whatever the fuck he says. So he will tell the military, like, shoot bullets into Americans who are protesting peacefully, and they will have somebody in charge of the military who will say, yes, sir, Mr. Trump. You know? Right now, Elon Musk and Doge have the ability and have reached into people's bank accounts and taken their money. That should terrify every single one of us. The Trump administration disappeared somebody for protesting. That should terrify every single fucking one of us. Acklears says, yeah, bro, keep dreaming. Well, I don't know who you are, Acklears, but maybe you should read the news. Alrighty. Jason says, Trump is doing amazing work. Don't give a shit about your opinion on the matter. Okay, well, you don't have to be here, Jason. Thank you for coming. Alrighty. Scrolling down to the bottom. V, people cannot see through their love of hate. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, V. Lori says, how do we know they took people's money? Doge. There was an article about it. There were at least one, I think more than one, person that Doge decided was a dead person who was receiving Social Security benefits. That person was alive, or those people were alive. I can't remember if it was one or two people. And Elon Musk just took that money out of his bank account. And that person now has zero legal recourse. They can yell and scream, and maybe someone in Doge or someone in the Republican Party will call attention to that and try to get that reversed. But that's the problem, is that we're living in this time, you know? Like, will our God King Donald Trump deign to fix the problem that he solved? It's anybody's fucking guess, and that should terrify and piss off every single fucking one of us. Oh, man. Let's see here. Acklears says if they are alive, they can just go to Social Security, you know? Oh my God, Acklears, that would be such a great idea if Doge hadn't fucking crippled Social Security. So now they have almost no money to solve these problems and almost no staff to solve these problems. Yeah, man, I'm done with you. Leave, Acklears. Show yourself out. I'm not even gonna fucking bother blocking you. Just send yourself out. Let's see here. V says they love Trump so bad that they can't see what he's doing to them. You know, V, I think they're also, the victims of misinformation and propaganda. And I think that it is really fun to tease and make fun of them for being uninformed and in a cult and shit like that. But number one, I don't think that's productive. And number two, right-wing voters are not the ones they do not have a monopoly on getting conned and tricked. There are 8 million people who voted in 2020 who did not vote in 2024 because they got conned into thinking that not voting was better than voting. There were lots of people on the left who thought that not voting or voting for Trump would be better for the people of Palestine because they did not like what Biden was doing in sending money and weapons to Israel, even though they were doing war crimes over there. And listen, was what Biden did wrong? 100%. Absolutely. But was the case crystal fucking clear that Trump would have been worse? Do we not see now that he is currently being worse than a Harris administration would have been? The answer is unequivocally yes. And millions of people fell for that on the left. Did you watch Sam Cedar debate? No, I don't know who that is. Let's see here. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Lady Sarah says, what are the top 5 countries with the highest population? That is not a question about politics, Lady Sarah, but thank you for being here. Okan says, I grew up in a conservative house. I think these people believe that protest is bad. I outgrew that. They think that Democratic protests are bad, but they think that right-wing protests are good. They think that a right-wing militia, taking over a bridge is perfectly fine, is freedom of speech. So yeah, it is concerning, everybody. It is concerning. Hey, Acklears, just want to let you know that I'm ignoring you. John Connor says protests are fine unless you're tearing everything up and throwing a tantrum. Yeah, I completely agree with that, John Connor. But the FBI put out a report that during the Black Lives Matter protests, 90% of the violence was either done by or instigated by right-wing agitators that were trying to make the protests look worse than they actually were. I do not buy into that frame that left-wing protesters or rioters are violent, especially when you got people on the right saying that the January 6th people, that was the day of love, and peacefully protesting. John Connor says it was done by Antifa funding by George Soros. I hope that you're being sarcastic, John Corner. Cool Sniper says, I thought Nick Sirianni was Republican. I don't know who that is. Are you saying that I look like him? Ghost Hunter Dale says Stein. That's anti-Semitism. And so you're out of here, my man. All right. User a bunch of numbers says Cooper. This guy does nothing but lie. All right. You are out of here, my man. Let's see here. Cooper Goozy says, why'd you make untrue claims? Then don't answer me when I say it's not true. I didn't see your comment, Cooper. And also, I'm not making untrue claims. Let's see here. He says, did you watch Charlie Kirk and Newsom? I did not. I can't stand watching Charlie Kirk. He is so obviously full of shit and so fucking annoying and such a fucking elitist about the things that he's saying. Like, everybody's such an idiot for not realizing the things that I'm saying are true. And I'm like, well, you're lying. That's the reason why. Let's see here. John Corner says George Soros has been topping small countries for years. Yeah, no, John, I'm sorry, but you're out of here, man. I can't stand that kind of misinformation on my live stream. Alrighty, let's see here. The Sam Cedar debate and Jubilee. Yeah, no, I can't stand those also because, again, those are just people fighting. Like there's no convincing that is going on. There's no understanding. There's no meeting people where they are. It's literally just you're wrong and I'm right. I can't fucking stand those. What's up, Neville Weber? How's it going? Oh, hey, AK, not only am I ignoring you, but all of your comments are helping my visibility in the Twitch stream, so I really appreciate that. Sandra says, will they cut Medicaid? Yes, they 100% will. Cooper Goozy says, there's no evidence of Doge taking any money, and how does one get 90% of times it was right? That comment doesn't make any sense, Cooper Goozy. There's plenty of evidence of Doge taking money. They took money out of an account that was operated by the state of New York. They took money out of at least one person's account who they thought was a dead person getting Social Security illegally, but it was inaccurate. So I don't know what you're talking about, Cooper. Cooper Goozy says, I think you sound smart throwing out senseless claims and numbers, so I think you're probably going to be gone from my live in 2 seconds. All right, see you later. All right, let's see here. Dan Blackwood says, no, not only will they cut Medicaid, it's mathematically impossible for them for not with this budget. That is accurate. Kyle says he hates conservatives. He's always right and you are wrong. Are you talking about me? I don't hate conservatives. I hate Republican politicians and billionaires. Non-Hero says, why do we call him Trump when that's not his real name? I know his real name is Drumpf, but I don't really understand that what the value is of dead naming him in that way. Heath says, what do Democrats have to do better in 2028? I'm not even thinking about 2028, Heath. I'm thinking about we got special elections coming up, 2 in Florida and 1 in New York on April 1st. So if you live in those areas, then do the work of electing Democrats in those elections. They'll be tough races because they're heavily red districts, but they are definitely winnable. Also, we got midterms in 2026, and we need to activate and organize and get everybody to get out to vote in the midterms in 2026. We need it to be unequivocal rejection of what Trump and Musk and Doge are doing. Alrighty, let's see here. Okay. Jill says, how could you like Soros? I have exactly 0 opinions about Soros. I know that everything that the right says about him is bullshit, but that's basically it. Timu Jason Kelsey says, do you feel that district level judges have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions? I don't know if it's right that they do have that authority, but they clearly do. Like, right-wing judges and left-wing judges have been doing that for decades. And so I don't know why suddenly we're calling into question the legal authority of judges to do what they have always been doing. Is it maybe because Donald Trump doesn't like being told he can't do things and now he's creating weird legal theories out of midair, like what they're doing is wrong? Probably that. You know, he's that guy who thinks that he's able to change reality just based on saying the same thing over and over again, you know? Let's see here. Mason says, thoughts on Greg Kassar? I don't know who that is. All right. Timu Jason Kelsey says, I know they do, but do they have the actual legal backing? Yeah, 100%. Shea Cruel says, can a Republican who opposes Trump win the midterms in 2026? I mean, are you talking about like a Senate person or a House person? It's definitely possible. There are lots of people who voted against the Trump agenda in primaries and governor's races and mayoral races and stuff. You know, we have this idea of Trump being this like infallible kingmaker, but he loses just as much as he wins as far as like nominating and endorsing candidates goes. I think that trend is probably getting harder these days just because there are fewer Republicans who exist who are not MAGA Republicans. And so, you know, the field is smaller as far as like actually getting those candidates there. Whereas before, like in the 2018 midterms and the 2020 elections, you had other Republicans who were at least fighting people like Herschel Walker for the nomination and stuff like that. Alrighty, let's see here. Yeah, it's possible, but I think it's less likely now than it was in the past, but it's definitely possible. Let's see here. Trenton Bridges says, what will it take for MAGA to turn on their savior? I think we need to do the work of convincing them that they are being lied to. And it's hard work, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of trust building. It's not data and figures that does it. It is slow work. You can't just show somebody the piece of data and then go, look, the thing you believed was wrong. That does not work. It only entrenches people in what they believed. If you're interested in doing this work, there is an excellent book called The Persuaders that I highly recommend for you guys. I am reading it now, and it is very instructive and informative. Trenton Bridges says, so I got to be nice to them? Yeah, you know, and I don't like that either, but, you know, that's the work of convincing, you know? So here's what I would say, Trenton Bridges. Like, don't just focus on the most hardcore MAGA voters. There are 85 million people who did not vote in 2024 who could have. Let's find those people and convince them to vote. I think it would be easier to find them and convince them not only to vote, but to vote for Democrats than it would be to take a MAGA person and turn them into a Bernie Sanders person. You know, there got lots of independent voters. You know, one of the things I'm learning in this book, Persuaders, is that independent voters are not looking for somebody who's centrists. They just can see the value in the rhetoric from both sides. It's a little bit like I'm saying, you know, like, I think we should have hot dogs, and an independent centrist voter, it would say something like, oh my God, hot dogs are great. And then someone else goes, but pizza is great too. And that guy goes, oh my God, pizza is great too. And we're like, what would you like better right now, pizza or hot dogs? And they're like, oh, I don't know. What they want is not a pizza flavored hot dog or vice versa. What they want is for somebody to make a better argument for their side of things. And there are those people out there. There are millions of those people out there. There are 77 million people who voted for Trump and Republicans in this past election. That is 23% of eligible voters who voted for Trump. And not all of those people are hype about their choice. Not all of those people are, you know, happy with what is going on right now. All right, AK Lears still helping me in the algorithm. Thank you for being there. Cody says, what will it take for leftoids to realize they're in a cult? We're not, Cody. And I do not appreciate that kind of behavior. So you're out of here, buddy. Alrighty. Scrolling down to the bottom says, Baby Pluto 732 says, you simply focused on the wrong issue and made border security racist. That's not true, Baby Pluto. If you want me to get into it, I will. Drone Seeker says, I love Trump, and I love blocking people. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question, be part of the conversation. Unknown Lady 0139 says, what about the $2 billion Jared got? No investigation. Yeah, you know, that's what happens when you're a Republican. They just let anything fucking slide. It's completely fine. So yeah, Jared Kushner sold our nuclear secrets to the Saudis for $2 billion. No investigation, no consequences, no fucking nothing. And people are yelling about fucking Burisma and Hunter Biden and shit like that. Like, it's unbelievable, man. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. Doe Radio says, I want to help the algorithm too. Thank you, Doe Radio. I appreciate that. Yeah, baby says, do you think the recent outburst at Republican town halls recently is a positive sign that Republicans are tired of the Republican leadership? You know, I would, except for the fact that there are Democrats in areas that are run by Republicans. And if you are a Republican voter who got what you wanted, you are not incentivized to go to those town halls and yell that we think you're doing a great job to your representatives. So it's not paid protesters. Let's just fucking nip that in the bud real quick. But it might be more Democratic leaning voters who are, you know, just they live in that district and they are registering their displeasure with their elected representatives. So yeah, I don't know if that's the kind of indication that means that we all get to, you know, stop doing the work and, oh great, the momentum is turning and, you know, we can just fucking wait for the shit to fix itself. It's a good sign, but it is not nearly enough. We need to fucking put the pedal to the metal here. And when we see progress happening, we need to double down on it as opposed to going, okay, now we get to have a little bit of a break. So yeah, you know, I'm not trying to tell you guys, you don't have to work yourself to death on this. Self-care is still important. Stepping away from the shit is still important, but we all have to do the work. We got to do the work of convincing and recruiting. All right. All right. Yes. Thank you, Doe. Why do they love Trump after seeing he only cares about the millionaires and billionaires? Misinformation and propaganda. Doe Rado. It is just misinformation and propaganda. They are not seeing what is happening because they're not being shown what is happening. They're being told lies and being fed lies. And, you know, as much as it is easy for us to look at that and say, man, what a bunch of idiots, I can't believe they're falling for it. Number one, there but for the grace of God go I. If you were born in that town, in that city, in that state, to that family, going to that church, getting that information off of that social media and that news, you would probably fall for it too. And number two, they do not have a monopoly on getting tricked. There are 8 million left Democratic voters who voted in 2020 who did not vote in 2024 because they got conned as well. They got conned into thinking that not voting or voting for Trump would be better than electing Kamala Harris. Storm Rider says, and it's coming from the president and press secretary. In your opinion, how dangerous is Party 2025 and the Christian National Movement? I think it is the most dangerous thing, Sam. I think that what we have now is a violent, vengeful dictator in office who is doing everything that he can to remove accountability, make people not trust the news, punish his enemies, consolidate power, install loyalists, no oversight, no, equal branches of government, nothing. It's just whatever the fuck he wants. And what he wants is bad for lots and lots of people. We're likely looking at a future where I could get in trouble for doing this, what I'm doing, where this is protected speech. This is First Amendment shit, what's going on right now. And I'm scared, guys. I'm not going to stop because fuck those guys. But, it's not something that I haven't not talked about with my wife, Let's see here. Yeah, baby says, are you against free lunch in public schools? I am not against free lunch in public schools. We have the money to feed our kids. We should fucking feed our kids. Can you look into the Bukele-Trump bromance? I was all for Bukele's confinement center, but now it seems like Yahtzee stuff. I will look into the Bukele thing. That name sounds familiar, but I don't know, if there have been other, other developments, And I didn't know a lot about him beforehand. I just recognized the name. Kyle Goblersh says, thoughts on cooperatives? I love cooperatives. I think that we need more nationalization of industries here in this country, and we also need to incentivize companies to be employee-owned. Employee-owned companies do great, both profit-wise and, expansion-wise, taking worker happiness-wise. Why aren't we incentivizing companies to do that? Why does every company have to be, a fucking bajillion-dollar company that completely owns the market and is fully monopolized, and all of the, benefits go to the top 1%? Heath Miller says, because that's how they start, my boy. Not all of them, Heath Miller. That's just what greedy people like to do. Shay Cruel says, I asked about Republicans opposing Trump because I plan on running for governor of Florida in 2026. Are you a Republican who wants to beat Ron DeSantis? Is he the one that you'd be running against? Shay Cruel, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Liberty Mind says, are you a neoliberal Zionist or a real one? I don't know what those words mean. If you want my opinion about Israel and Palestine, I will give it to you, but I don't ascribe to any of those semantic labels. Shay Cruel, so you are a non-Trumpian Republican and you want to vote for governor of Florida? Yeah, I think you 100% should do that. But tell me about why you're a Republican and not a Democrat, Shay. And if it's as simple as Democrats can't win in Florida right now, I completely fucking accept that, man. Tell me, like, are there policy issues that you prefer on the right than the left and stuff like that? Cho Launa says, so what does it take to impeach Trump? Clearly, we can all see he is not doing a good job. What it takes is voting for people that will impeach Donald Trump. And the Republican Party will not. He could literally shoot people on the fucking steps of the Capitol, and the Republican Party wouldn't do shit about it. They don't care, or they have no backbone, or they have no fucking moral foundation. They don't give a shit. Let's see here. EZ Vibration says, opinion on MAGA's buying Teslas when they were anti-EVs. Yeah, MAGA doesn't really give a shit about hypocrisy or consistency. I will say that Teslas have the highest vehicle collision death rate of any car that is on the market these days. So the same way with them not getting vaccinated during COVID, I would just say fucking good luck, guys. Do Radu says, thank you. I appreciate you pushing understanding. I agree. It is smart to talk to the ones that were undecided and get them to vote blue. It is a waste of time to talk to loyalists. We just need a strong candidate to lead the Democrats and unite the party. Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I would settle for just getting people to recognize that they are being lied to about the Democratic Party and that the Democratic Party is better than they think it is and the Republican Party is worse than they think it is. That the deck has been stacked against the Democratic Party for a long time and the things that they are hearing on social media are lies and that they need to get their news from other sources. I would settle for that. I don't need to have a unified Democratic Party because, you know, we can vote for a fractured party that is still better than the Republican Party, which it is, you know, by leagues, by fucking light years. Good bit, It's the Rocketeer. That was funny. Alrighty, let's see here. All right, I'm going to head out of here, guys. I've been going long lately. I guess I'm just real fucking charged up these days. My streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I often start early because I really like doing these. I appreciate all the support you give me, whether it is the free kind, like the likes and the shares and the comments, and telling all your friends how great my live streams are. If you can afford to do the financial kind of support, I appreciate that too, but you obviously don't have to. We are all suffering through a cost of living crisis because these fucking billionaires keep on stomping on our fucking necks and turning the screws and making our life so much fucking worse. I'm real cranky today, guys. I have a Patreon that you can join. I have a store you can buy things from. Those are both on my website, jaredberenstein.com, as is my tour schedule. If you want to come out and see me do stand-up, all my tour dates are online right now. You can also send gifts on TikTok and Twitch, and I think on YouTube, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, if there wasn't a question that if there was a question that you had that I was not able to get to, or you want me to get into some more shit, my DMs are open. You can email me through my website. I am really good at responding to people. And yeah, just my heartfelt plea for everybody to get involved, to do the organizing. You know, the more I see what is going on in our government, the more I learn about authoritarian movements, the more I recognize that we have to be the ones to stop this. No one is coming to save us. It is only organizing and protesting and boycotting and voting and striking that changes the trajectory that we are currently in. And we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. If you see some fucking Democrats at the State of the Union holding up paddles or wearing all pink and you think that's dumb, I don't give a shit. They're doing something. They're trying. They have zero political power right now. And they don't have the resources of the Republican Party because they're working with the fucking billionaires, you know? So yeah, do the work, guys. Let's all do the work. If we all do the work, then nobody has to do a lot of work. You know, I'm fucking exhausted, guys. I'm 45 years old, turning 46 on Saturday, and I can't do it all by myself. I did so many canvassing ships in 2024, and we still lost. I couldn't have done more to have won that election for us, guys. I'm so sorry. So do the work with me, guys. Do the convincing. Do the canvassing. Talk to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, your loved ones. The people that know you and respect you are going to listen to you more than just some random fucking ding-dong knocking on their door who doesn't even live in their fucking state, you know? So yeah, do the work, guys. There are already great organizations doing this work. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Join Indivisible, join Run for Something, join Vote Save America, find a candidate that you like and just work real hard to get them elected. And realize the power that you have. Like, you know people probably that have influence here. You maybe know somebody who works in the Department of Justice. You know somebody who's in the military. You know, like, that is work that we can all do, you know? And again, we are only going to get through this if we do this together and we take care of each other. No one lets go of anyone's hand. That is a phrase that I heard. That is how you get through authoritarian regimes. No one lets go of anyone's hand. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for being here, everybody, including Ackleers, because your comments increase my visibility in the Twitch algorithm. All right, take care, everybody. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.